So, whole new year, renovations in and out. For those who were attentive to the community, I have recently put up the poll for our next challenge, which is going to be the ancient weapon design. You design your ancient weapon with the character or warrior to go with it. So far, Ancient Bow is winning. Now you know what I voted for. So blame Breath of the Wild. That's that's really the only reason. For this whole vote, Breath of the Wild really has been inspiring me. But Ancient Bow is winning. You never know; things might change. Last time we were for sure thought that one thing was gonna win, and then after a stream, and we kind of talked about it, one thing won, and then we ended up going with both anyway. So just go ahead and cast your vote, please. The more people that vote, the more people that I know are invested in this. Our holiday challenge wasn't as populated as I would have liked. A lot of people took that on. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys enjoyed your brush sets for those who wrote notes. And I'm still running that. If you write good notes and I read your notes and you publish them to the class notes category on my Google+, so go to my website, click on the Google+ icon, go to the class notes category, make sure you join, read the rules, and make sure that you are uploading it to the class notes category. I look through these and I reward with some brush sets. Sometimes it's a whole brush set, the whole set of sets. So all 4 brush sets, which is like a $50 value around. And or just single brush sets, depending on those who have already purchased them and have some left that they haven't purchased. But if you would like my brush sets, if you have none of them, the better your notes, the better the brush set that you get. So I like to encourage note taking. I appreciate when students are involved actively. They don't just sit around and listen. They actually are involved in the lesson. Let's get on to the lesson. Before that, I have updated my Patreon for those who are interested in supporting, even supporting us with the first tier. Our goal is 1,000 patrons, and I'm just going to keep, getting that out there. This is a possibility for those who want to give back to the community, want to be a part of it a little bit more closely. For those who are interested in private tutoring but are looking for a more affordable alternative, I guess. The final tier, the apprentice tier, offers you a lot of one-on-one with me. So it's mostly group, of course. It's all the patrons together in the Discord, and it comes with all the rewards of the tier as well as the Discord tutoring. So for those who are interested, that's available for you. But for those who just want to give back to the community and just help us reach our goal, all it takes is just $1 tier. And we'll be that much closer. So thank you for those who have already joined Patreon for that. Thank you so much. And I had one more thing to say, but I forgot. Oh, please make sure you read the rules. I see a lot of people breaking rules. I'm not going to point at any one person individually, but I don't want to embarrass them. They've already gotten their critiques, but please make sure you read the rules. If anything is broken, more than one, my moderators will know and they'll ban you. I'm very, very serious about this. We've hit 7,000 members, and if you're not following the rules, we really don't need that one extra member hogging the wall. I'm very, very serious about this. We're going to only get more and more members in here, and as soon as we hit 10,000, I'm going to need 3 more new moderators. So make it easy on the moderators, please. Make sure you read the rules before you post. It's very, very important. We love the openness of the community, but there's a lot of moderation in order for that openness to stay manageable and not chaotic. So please keep that in mind. I think it's fair. It's only a number of rules, and they really keep everything organized. So let's get started. I'm gonna leave the Kim Jong-un design for later on in this hour. Let's get started. Let's talk about working from reference. This is a great way to come back because this is one of the biggest beginner mistakes ever. Which is working through the lens of your symbols. So let's make a quick diagram. So I'm going to just make this a lighter gray, actually. So let's imagine that this is your head, okay? So this is your eyeball, and your eyeball is looking at something right over there. Okay, and that over there something, let's say it's this photo. So, okay, I'm going to grab that. And you are looking at this. This is what you're trying to copy. Okay, bear with me. I really want this diagram to stick in your brains. Hopefully you guys can hear me and everything, right? Okay, so this is what you're looking at. Ideally, this is what you want to happen. The more professional you are, the more this is possible. But let's compare this to a beginner. A beginner sees something else. What do they see? So they see what they've trained themselves to see, which is a combination of all kinds of, it could be anime, it could be cartooning, it could be some half-learned diagram, it could be some referencing. But what they see when they draw an eye is something like this. Something really anime, really flat, makes zero sense. Just really, really, really crazy anime. Let's just try to make it a little bit more less scared. Okay, so let's take this. They don't see it raw, like in this diagram. What they see is they see it through this filter. And that's why you guys make mistakes. Because what you're seeing is not the image in its true form, and you're reading it in all its angles and its anatomy and its biology and its form, and the texture and the brushwork necessary and the contours, latitude and longitude lines, the grid lines. You don't see any of that. What you see is some of it. So how much of this are we going to see if this is stamped on top? You see only some. Your brain is reading only some of this. So your brain is reading some of the eyebrow, and then we're getting something like this. See, this shape is exactly the opposite of what's happening here. It's just a flat line. But you took it upon yourself to give this reproduction here this kind of line. This one, you got away with it because it's always a female. It's always a female eye. I've never, ever seen, and I've taught hundreds of students privately, and all of you guys, thousands of students I've come across in live teaching. I have never seen someone more prone to drawing a male eye than a female eye. All of anime works along the female build. Even if you like drawing pretty boys, they all have a typical female build in them. So again, you guys are seeing this. Look at how little we can see of the reference. This is what's happening in your brains. Okay, this has to stop. How do you stop it? Well, what's happening here is that you're eyeballing, and you're eyeballing through this projected, like this evil saboteur here that's waiting to completely ruin everything you see, because this is an eye you've drawn so many times, you've succeeded in it, you've been complimented, you got all of the positive reinforcement, and this solidified it. Your brain thought this. Also, when you were a baby and your kindergarten teacher was teaching you what an eye was, they showed you a picture of this. Again, your language system, your brain's business is to just get you to recognize what the word is, learn the word, build your language system, understand the symbols thereafter, and then communicate and survive. That's all your brain's responsibility was. So for you to counter your brain, you'd have to completely recode it. You have to completely undermine all of your habits. Again, how do you do that? You do that by no longer eyeballing. Stop eyeballing, because that's bad. You need to plan. The way to counter all of this is to start working like this. So let me just completely lower the opacity of this. So what I do when I'm working from reference and I'm starting to, here, let me just, starting out on the painting, and I feel like I'm not going to get a good hold of this. And you can sense it. You can sense when the, bad measurement is about to happen. You can really tell when it's about to happen to you. So this is what I do. I start building lines. So this is too thick. Let me see. So what these lines do is they help me organize which direction my brush is going to be moving in. They help undermine that symbol that's projecting on front of everything I want to see. And so what I start doing is stuff like this. All right, I'm building lines like trend lines. All right, so from the corner to the other corner, perfectly flat. Okay, and then we're getting some really, really basic line. This is very circular, so it requires more lines. The more circular, the more lines. All right. So I'm just going to merge these layers, duplicate so you can see them better. All right, I'm going to move this up here. It's very different. It's not at all the measurements that we see. Maybe the lower eyelid is the same. All eyeballs are circular, and these people have pretty big eyes. But his eyes are much smaller than hers. Just looking at the trend line, very different. More flat, whereas hers is doing what? What's hers doing? It's doing the beauty triangle. Doing something that looks like this. It's going down, as happens with females. Do you see that? So never assume that these measurements are a one-time thing. You only have to measure once and you're set. So let's carry these over here and project them on. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. The eyebrows have an arc to them, so you've completely ruined the male aspect of it, which means you can't draw a man right now. If someone were to ask you, hey, draw a man, you can't. That's not in your capacity. It's not in your capabilities. You can't do that. And you can't do that because you're suffering from this disease. Right here. You're seeing everything through this lens. And I notice this mostly because both of these eyes look the same. They look like the same eye in different angles. And when you're working from a reference, you're trying to do the opposite of all of this. You're trying to teach yourself multiple different types of eyes. And you can't do it without the trend lines. You can't do it without understanding exactly what is the mathematical difference if you were to measure it in angles between each of these eyes. So let's take a look at the girl. So we've got downward droop the whole time, lots and lots of downward droops. And that cat eye look is really what makes female faces happen. All right, so multiple lines for the eyelid here. Not much angularity, really, really circular, whereas the male we had a lot less trend lines because it was a lot more geometric. Okay, so there's barely anything, but we need an extra little set just to show what's happening with the eyebrows. So it's not so much that, it's more like this. Okay, so if you're not doing this, if you're not setting this up, you're really doing yourself a disservice. And someone who doesn't wear shoes with grip on them in the winter is doing themselves a disservice. Okay, it's going to be a very uncomfortable commute. What you're doing is not just a disservice. That's a nice way of putting it. You're completely sabotaging your success. At this point, you are your worst enemy. You are worse than Saddam Hussein. Okay, so please stop doing this to yourselves. You need to learn how to start seeing this. Okay, this is what's going to guarantee your success. These trend lines. So if I don't see this in your notes, you guys really didn't get much out of my class today. So for those note takers, I want to see some examples that you did of this. Okay, so now that we did that, obviously now we can tell exactly where the issues are. And a lot of students think, no, I won't find the issues on my own. You really will. First and most important thing, let's start with, actually, let's just do the male eye. I'm going to merge this down. Okay, the male eye is not downturned. It's flat. Like I always say, the male eye is downturned this way on the opposite direction. So then two areas are almost balanced, or one is almost always down. Male eyes don't have the beauty triangle. It is the inversion of the beauty triangle. Okay, so I'm just making this eye less long. This long eye that you have is also a disease from a symptom of the disease of, sorry, I'm just going to drink some tea, of symbol dependency. And at the same time, it's symbol dependency, but you also are lacking a great deal of geometric anatomy studies, like form studies. And when you lack those, you don't see a perfect circle staring at you in the face. You give it that long anime touch. Okay, you also gave each of these massive pupils. This guy's pupils are not that big. You overcolored his eyes. All of these students who are just starting always give their characters like this super cheap contacts looking thing. All right, can you stop wearing contacts, people? They're so cheesy. They belong in the 90s. They don't look cool. Brown eyes are the best. And whatever color you're born with as well, you know, that's beautiful. Stay with it. Keep it. It just looks so gross. Just flattening this eyebrow. And remember those trend lines? Well, that's what I'm using right now. I'm just going to use my blocking brush. That's what I'm going to use right now to block in one section for this, one block for that, one block for this, whoop, one block for this, one block for that. And that's how I work. You have to get the blocks. These blocks are part of the trend lines. So just take a look. These lines right here, they were part of the trend lines we made. The edges of the brush are representing the trend line. Okay, so I haven't been on my computer in a while. I'm taught with it, so I'm in a completely different kind of position. Okay, so we got... And also try to get your version to be as large, your painting to be as large as the reference. If your painting isn't as large as the reference, you will think that this is a good size for this area. You go over here and it's not the right size, it's too small. So I'm constantly shrinking back and forth or enlarging back and forth between reference and, between reference and painting. Look at this. You gave so much shadow. You didn't know what to do over here. You really didn't need that much. That line is very, very small. Okay. It's just these minor changes. We're already seeing the difference between male and female. Small little changes, but for a student, this means years and years of work. And I don't like that. I don't like that a couple, fundamental rules displayed in the lecture or the difference between a year wasted or not. Just take the notes and you guys won't ever face this issue again. So there's a lot of darkness. He chose very, very muddy background color, very muddy. And so now I'm just adding some lines. Males have a little bit more shadow around. Okay, and then I'm flattening this. You can tell he's kind of smiling. Maybe. Alright, so I'm just getting the basic shape down. And it's okay if I use multiple large brush strokes as long as they finish off looking like one brush stroke. Alright, minimalism is key when you're blocking in. Write that back. Alright, so I'm trying to sync shadows together, trying to find where else we have these issues. So stop seeing it through the lens of the symbol because you're sabotaging yourself. At one point or another, you're too weak to fight back. At one point or another, you will have been, you were too weak to fight back, or you will be too weak to fight back. The better you get at doing this, the more powerful you will be against fighting back your symbol. But identifying that you have the problem is step one. And you have the problem. If you're here and you need art classes or you have ever been accused of symbol dependency, you have this issue. Okay, another big thing that students forget is the inner water line and the tear duct system right along here. That's a big problem. I'm trying to get a little less of a symbolic shape to the eye. I'm trying to set up all of the values to be in their designated location, and then I will address them with the gradient tool later. Sorry, the soft brush, which will provide us with the gradients we need. Okay, so that means that I'll be worried about everything later. I'm going to draw a quick line to represent the crease. This doesn't remain a line. Lines that you use this early don't remain lines. They turn into edges that taper into one direction or the other, depending on the edge they're representing. Okay. And then there are some more lash-like distortion over here of the edge. Some stuff over here. His eyes are much more closed. So what I'm going to do is just lift this whole section upwards so we have that squinted look. Okay, and get the thickness back. Oops. Okay, so now we captured the flatness of his eyebrow, the shape of his eyelids. He does have a hooded eye, so I'm actually going to try that again. Lay down that first line. Bring this back. And fix that. So we have a little bit more of that droop. You see that droop over here? This whole area droops down. And then after you're done this, you use your trend lines, you resized your image to be similar to the reference, you blocked in according to what the trend lines revealed, then at this point you can start blending. And by blending, I don't mean bringing in soft brush and destroying everything that you've been doing so far. Stay away from the soft brush. Soft brush is for professionals. I've always thought this, soft brush is as powerful and as unruly a tool as dodge tool. If you guys overuse it, I would rather a student who doesn't know how to use soft brush but is really okay, almost okay with blocking, than a student who overuses soft brush and I have to teach them blocking, because blocking means that they have zero geometric anatomy. So to just not feed your symbol dependency and your obsession with gradients as some sort of cheaty way of bringing in form, completely just rid yourself of the soft brush and start smudging. You have no business doing this because this is a completely new language of reorganizing paint. You don't know what you're doing with this. This is a lot of painting away unless you're doing the darken and lighting and jumping in between. So the darken and lighten layer or brush mode. Or you're just not using that and you're painting over everything and you have to keep going back. So let's say you did this to lighten, you're going back and instead of switching your brush, you're trying this again with soft brush. You've rewritten the entire form vocabulary now. You've rewritten everything. So stop using soft brush. Smudge instead. So just smudge tool combined with a scatter brush. And now I'm starting to smudge. So I'm smudging according to any areas I find here that are a little bit more blended. So any areas of smaller hairs working like a halo. This area here I'm going to keep pretty sharp. Okay, I'm going to blend down here. I'm actually missing a block. So I'm going to keep my block equipped, my blocking brush. So this guy is looking a little bit too pretty. And that happens when you have a larger lower eyelid. Okay, I'm going to throw in a quick little highlight here, connecting straight from the waterline. That's a bit too bright. One quick brush stroke, trying to be as efficient as possible. Okay. Alright, get my smudge tool again. Just start smudging away according to which areas are tapering and not smudging or under smudging areas that are an edge. So I'm smudging the top of this line I drew earlier. I'm keeping the lower half of that line because it's supposed to remain an edge. And this is my process. If you ever join me on stream while I paint a portrait, you can tell this is my process. I always do this. This is what I do. This isn't catered for students. This isn't a tutorial for students and I go off doing something else. This is exactly what I do. Okay? Also, what the heck, you know? Grayscale that. What are you doing working with a colored reference while you're trying to do a grayscale version? Aren't you here to read the references? If you were trying to read the color, you'd have painted in color. Keep it in grayscale. You want to study? Keep it in grayscale. Just to put it into perspective, I still use grayscale. So if you're not using grayscale and you still suffer from these symbols, you're doing a lot of wrong. You're doing a lot of the bad. Okay, so now I'm bringing in some basic highlights. I'm going to start bringing in my soft brush, but only to introduce some gradient shadows, and I'm bringing it very, very softly. And I never go ahead and paint with soft brush from start to finish. There are a lot of edges, like look at this one, the temple edge right here. Temple edge sounds like a game name, temple edge. That's cool. Like a puzzle game. A bunch of like gears and stuff. Anyway, stupid Breath of the Wild. Alright, so I'm smudging some more. And just doing this, looking at all these tiny little details, So there's a tiny little flick of a brush right here. This is a lot more tight around here because it's like an anchor for the eyelids. And then we've got this much, much thinner inner corner, just like that. Alright, this is losing its spherical shape. This is what I want to see students do. This is what my students do. And if I don't see this level and they're like by their second session or third, I stay on the blocking. I make them do Asaro heads and form studies until they understand there is no role for the symbol and no role for the line if you want to get better. I'm always trying to reverse engineer this understanding, like reverse engineer the lesson. Instead of saying this, this, and this, I like to start by showing how your painting is the result of bad thinking, how there isn't anything you currently have that you can keep. There's nothing about what you did today you can keep. You did it all wrong. If I say that at all, you're going to be under the impression that there's some stuff you can keep, and you don't have the wisdom enough to know what it is you're supposed to get rid of or keep. In your opinion, everything you do is right. Whether you're not, whether or not you're, that's a person, it's not a personality thing, it's just a student thing. Usually with eyes, I just get the perfect circle basic brush, and I use that. I'm going to tuck in the edges just a little bit more, decrease my density. So never assume you're going to find it out eventually. Just go straight in with this exact method. This is the only method. It's a method that addresses the differences between all the eyes. It lets you trace over your reference, which is absolutely recommended. Whoever the asshole is out there that says don't trace, just don't listen to that moron and his crappy portfolio. Okay? Trace as much as you goddamn want. Don't trace everything, okay? Trace the trend, trace the geometric anatomy. It's like what do they call it? What do I call them? Trace over diagrams, sorry. And they are wonderful for helping you find the difference, assisting your eye, because you're suffering from this, assisting your eye and finding the differences between each eye, until eventually you will do this automatically. That is always going to happen. Your brain isn't going to repeat the same task and not find a better way and faster way to do it. But until then, you need to start teaching your brain how to do that. You have to undermine your brain's dependency on these symbols. All right, so I'm just perfecting the circle even more. The sphere, the eyeball, the ball, the big ball of the whole eyeball. I'm trying to make sure it's actually an eyeball. So I'm trying to keep these all consistent. These all eventually become a ball. If I'm being too hard for you right now, there's a little red X mark on the top of your screen. Just close that. If I'm being a little bit too hard for you. I'm not here to compliment you. I can hardly breathe and I'm teaching you guys how to draw. If this is being too hard, walk away. Nobody else is going to talk to you like this and help you improve. Okay. And then we've got some gradients. I'm trying to do these gradients with the soft touch of my blocking brush. But I might have to use soft brush, but this seems to be working, so just take a look. A really, really soft touch. So this is what the brush can do, but on really, really low pen pressure, it does this, which is a really, really nice taper. You still have some edges, so I wouldn't be so worried about the student, being so symbol dependent or brush dependent. All right, so I'm throwing some more. And this brush is my dry oil brush too, from my blocking set, the dry oil set. All right, I'm doing some last minute touches, and I feel like the eye is still extremely, it's lacking a lot. It's definitely first stages, but what comes after this is the detail of the eye sockets. Usually what I do with this is a quick little trick. I do this. Take a look. I do this. See, we're zooming in. Do you see this? We're zooming in. We're graduating into the healthy amount of zoom in. We're not just zooming in early on. We have to earn it. And you see how I did a radial shade with my blocking brushes, and now I'm smudging. When we zoom out, that actually looks like it's receding, or just becoming a depression of the eye socket. The hardest thing about the eye, painting the eye, is pulling off a believable crease of the socket. It's where I go to test or assess what level my student is going to be. I go here because it's a combination of gradients, edges, radial shading, both darkness and highlight, considering this fat pocket here. So I go here to measure it all. That's the first place I look. The next place would be the edge around the nostrils. I've mentioned all of this before. And now with my large brush, I'm just creating a texture for the eyebrows. See how I'm using the paint of the skin tone to make the feeling of the eyebrows texture. Pushing up, following the growth pattern of the eyebrows, of the hair. Okay. Okay, so bought to buy some Istebrak brushes. The brushes I have aren't working for me, so maybe these might work. I'm not sure I know what you mean by that first sentence, but I hope they help you, yeah? I've set them up so they have edges as well as texture. So as you can see, I'm smudging, but I'm not smudging it all. This is stupid. I'm not smudging this all. Please don't work with high strength on my smudging brushes. That's not how they're supposed to be. Any brush isn't supposed to be, especially Dodge or Smudge. Keep them low. Keep them really, really low. Even 1% strength has a role. Okay, so now I'm just going to bring in some of that bounce light. And before I use the blackest black, I am going to be... My guy kind of looks distressed. Like a representation of how I feel right now, talking about line dependency. I'm just gonna lighten things. When you zoom out, you really notice the trends. So make sure that when you're drawing the trend lines, you're not zooming in. This is not an attempt at any of this without zooming it out. It's not about detail. None of this is about detail. Detail has nothing to do with the molar, external, general look of the geometry. So I really want to take this all the way and show you guys exactly what I go through to achieve that believable look. So the more I go, the more I realize I haven't hooded his eye enough. I can always just lift this. This is something that I do. For me, what I fight is the kind of large eyelid. Sometimes I always just force a large eyelid to be visible. I also really just want to get rid of this entirely and show you a better way of, because the one you had is just too big and it's not perfectly circular enough. If you followed my process, and I've recently posted all of my Patreon 2017 videos for free for you guys to watch publicly. Just go to my webpage, my wall video on YouTube, my video wall, and you'll see the playlist there set up for you guys. But you can see I leave the pupil for the very, very end, the iris and the pupil, because I really want to get that squint right. And if I already set down the pupil, then I'm setting up this big thing, this big sore thumb I have to work around. So until I get that perfectly, I kind of stay away from that, from any part of the pupil or the iris. Just unnecessary detail. All of this area is smudged. I am going to bring in a soft brush now because some areas are really defined and soft, like very soft areas here. A very defined soft texture to them. And I'm just going to radially introduce all of these shadows, darkening the closer I get to the deepest part right here. Alright, so there's this extra, going right back to my brush, the blocking brush. This is all right here. See this whole section? It's part of the inner piece. This whole section gets a little bit more light to it. And after that, I'll bring in my my hard brush in a second. Alright, so by hard round, I'm using my mouse to click it, and I'm my guy is much bigger. So by looking at this, a lot of the top of the eye, so see how we finished the sphere? Look at the top of my brush. It's hidden under the eyelid, almost half. And sometimes you guys show the entire eye. Look, there's nothing hidden here. So how is it this much of the eye is visible, but the eye looks sleepy? I mean, what happened? So it looks a little bit like that. Just gonna get the dark value. Lifting up and then deleting the rest. Not taking any chances with how, you know, with eyeballing it or whatever. I'm fully drawing the eye with a stencil. I'm actually going in and drawing the eye. I mean, like bringing in the eye with like a protractor type accuracy. And I'm just going to be getting my soft brush now. Very, very small size. If you can get away with using soft brush, you can get away with it using it with a small size. And now I'm just introducing the illusion of the eyelashes. I'm not actually painting the eyelashes in. It's just a texture, a general look of the eyelashes in this area. This area here is still way too long. Now that I shrunk the eye, extremely long. We've got that top point. Everything is moving down. There's no shame in tracing. There's no shame in using liquify. These are all tools. It's like as if using these tools makes you a better artist. Nothing, no tool makes you a better artist. Art is knowledge. Application is different. Some application methods are easier and make it less of a pain in the ass to continue the study, which is why we use these tools. And if I had a liquify equivalent in traditional, I'd have used it a long time ago too. So enough with these stupid stigmas that get in the way of you actually doing some work. Okay, so now you see this entire shadow. The longer the lash, the larger its shadow. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting large and I'm radially introducing. What does radially mean? Can anyone answer that question? Just all in all, your image is very dark. There's a lot of stuff I have to correct here. But it's still a movement forward. I've got this weird shadow here. That's not right. It's just a little area. Small soft brush, not too intense. Okay, and then just more radial perfection. Alright, and then now you can pretty much start detailing around the waterline. You can bring in the brightest brights. This is an excellent position to be in right now. I blur sometimes. Just take a look at this trick. I'm on my smudge brush, on smudge tool. I'm at 1%. And I'm smudging, and it's still smudging. Okay, that's 1%. And I use this with a really light touch around the pupil. I mean the iris, sorry. So now I'm just going to bring in some slight color. Okay, I'm going to use my blackest black now. And that is going to be for the purpose of dark spots. See that? I just clicked those in to set up where my darkest dark is going to be. It has to be perfectly centered. It's a little tricky each time, but as you can see from the reference, see the aim is just so annoying. The guy has a very distorted pupil, which is why I'm just going to smudge it out and just keep darkening as I go. So it has a kind of like a bed of smudge to sit on and then just blur around it. Now that I have this darkest dark, I can tell how much more darkness I need around the lashes. So obviously we need more darkness around the lashes. Not too thick or else they look very, very effeminate. We're trying to learn the difference between male and female. Okay, we're not studying androgyny. It isn't the apocalypse yet. And then we're throwing this in here yet. I'm not sure. I'll delay it. We're not throwing that in there yet. Okay, so I'm just gonna identify exactly what's happening with the inner water line. I do need the highlight, but before I do that, I'm just gonna talk a little bit more about the eyeball. So the white of the eyes, as you can see, is just the smallest part of the white of the eyes is actually white. What we have here is another gradient situation. But we gotta be really radial with this. So a new layer, brushstroke number 1, opacity all the way low. What does radial shading mean? It means it gets darker as it gets closer to the source of the shadow, or the opposite with highlights. Excellent. Start with a large brush and radially descend into the darkest darks by shrinking your brush. Good. You don't throw in the darkest darks right away. You slowly graduate into them. So you see here I'm throwing a big mess of, just a mess of brush strokes that are soft. And I'm deleting away now with a new layer at where they were. And I'm using this as a chance to bring in some edge work around the eye. So we have all of this brightness now that we needed, with none of the danger of painting it over. So just like we delay the black, we delay the white. Okay. And then we are just detailing. Now this is just smooth sailing from here. The storm is done. All of the worst parts of any painting I've ever done, my least favorite, is all of this, because it's the most difficult. But if I do it right, it yields the most results, and it's the difference between me happy after a stream or me miserable after a stream. Because sometimes I bomb and I don't do very well because, I don't know, I'm too excited, I feel really good, and the better you feel about the painting you're about to try, the more in danger you are of being a cocky idiot and ruining your painting. That level of anxiety, I was telling the members on Discord that it's healthy, because it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you thinking about the, exactly what you're doing right now, and that's planning. And if you're skipping the planning because you feel really good and you have a clear image of it in your mind, you're ready for failure. You're never going to be safe until you're done all this blocking and trend line stuff, all the planning. So now I'm just radially bringing in with my lines the darkest darks of the eye sockets, moving into that little kind of like pool here of shadow. And this is detailing. Our brush is nice and small. I haven't zoomed out as much as I want to. I've been trying to stop that because people on YouTube can't see it. I mean, I encourage you guys to enlarge the screen, but for those who have me open with while drawing, they probably can't do that. Unless they have a double screen or something. Okay, and then now I'm actually going to bring in the whitest whites. I wanted to bring them in earlier, but you see how that was a mistake because the whites of the eyes weren't even set up. Okay, so we can start bringing in these pieces. I don't know why you're on darken right now. Okay. The eye comes to life immediately after bringing in the specular lights. Okay, some highlight under here, some highlight on the waterline. So I hope this was a good representation for you. I projected some of my own symbol dependency right now. They're harder to see because I've been doing this for so long. And you'll be exactly where I am now. This isn't some sort of magic. Every single brushstroke was done with your supervision. The only problem is whether or not you retain this information. And this is why I've been encouraging you guys to take notes. Active processing of notes while you're learning something means that you memorize it a lot more efficiently than if you were just sitting there paying attention. And because it's fresh in your mind, you think, oh yeah, I'll remember this. I'll remember this. That's just your recent memory of this. Tomorrow or the day after, are you really going to remember all of these details? And notes are what you can go back to, written in your own hand, in your own learning style. So don't be lazy. And now I have rewards for not being lazy. Okay, so mine is a little bit, of course, a lot of it different. I wish I had more time to show it, but I hope this has been a good demonstration. Any questions at all? Just write at Istebrak to ask me a question. A larger iris. I wouldn't see why I would give him a larger iris at all. That might be you being drawn to the large iris because of your style. Or not style. You guys, none of you guys have styles. You guys just have habits. So sometimes I do this thing that brings out the realism in the eye, which is radiation of like the brightness. So water likes to pool on the lower half of the eye and does a little bit of a thing like that, and that kind of brings out the believability in the textures. I don't think the eye needs a larger pupil or iris or anything. His is very distorted. Maybe in the girl, because it's a little bit more feminine, so you have a little bit more of that going on. You can get away with that baby face. So I'm just smudging even more now, bringing in that believable smudge, that texture, the haze. There's a definite haze that happens. The darkest and hairiest part of the eyebrows get some of that blackest black, especially for a brown hair. And as you start bringing in these blackest blacks, things start to make a little bit more sense. Some of the whiter areas here. The nose, which is very bright. I always draw the surrounding landscape as well, just to prep me for whenever this is going to be like a full-on face. And then that bounce light in the back. I'm just finding and outlining all these regions from each other. We have this very defined line of shadow right along here. Okay. I think your guy needs an iris. No. Anxiety is dangerous for your health. I don't mean anxiety. There is an actual artist level anxiety. Please don't diagnose yourself with anxiety issues just because you're an artist. There's an actual level of anxiety that you have that is just what it takes to complete a task. Lately, we've been so babied and so used to luxury that the anxiety that our body preps us with to complete a task is no longer proportionate to how difficult the task is, and so we bitch and then we moan and we think we have anxiety issues. This is just what it takes to complete a task. To build a face like this takes a certain level of attention, and that is very stressful on your brain. And it's, we're not painting forever. It's just episodes of painting, and we eventually take our rest to recuperate, and we rebuild our patience to deal with the task again. It's not the bad kind of anxiety. Bad kind of anxiety is a whole other story. So please don't diagnose yourself with it unless you have a doctor to help you. How do you do lashes? I don't do lashes. Don't do lashes. If you make a big mess doing them, I'd love to see your art. I have a feeling that you're paying less attention to your form and your edge work. Just don't do the lashes. Skip them. Skip the lashes. They're only feeding your desire to work with lines, and I don't want students to be exposed to that. Wouldn't do tell lashes and hairs at all. Unnecessary. Will you bother with the iris detail and lashes? Nope. It is unnecessary for this lesson. It's unnecessary for you until you start going into color. It isn't just me saving time. It's unnecessary for you as well. When you paint the features of the face, radial shading is used towards the end to introduce soft edges. No, you didn't understand that. Radial shading happens whenever it happens. If it's required for you to complete a large part of the painting that is taking up so much space, blocking in has to address it, and it's very radial. Your blocks have to be radial. Radial shading is a universal way from start to finish of interpreting what's happening with shadows. Also, you're not allowed to use black and white early on in the painting. So that's the only thing you're delaying till the end of the painting, but you're still following the pattern. What else are you going to block in other than the values and how they change? So you don't leave radial shading to anything. You do it right away. To save me time, I'm going to just shrink his, I'm looking at my navigator and his eyes are very less circular. Are the eyebrows a bit too wide? No. Might be, yeah, it might be like a little bit long on that side. Again, I'm not zooming out as much as I'd like, so I'm looking at my navigator a lot. Also, looking over to you guys helps me see the mistakes once I jump back, which is another really amazing way to find your issues. So, just looking at my navigator. And then enter. Merge down. Yeah, definitely. And all I do after that is I just smudge the edge to seam it in. This is all really still early. All of my paintings are like this. I don't excuse any part as being too finished for correction. You guys should be the same. Nothing is exempt from correction. No matter how late you are, always try to correct it and fix it and try to update it with your current level. I think I have the need for another little radial block right here. Would you agree that texture is a good way to break rendering that feels too smooth? Kind of personally get bored of when paintings look too clean. I'm not sure what you're doing to get that really soft look. I think that artists who are really popular who have that soft look, and then people, because they're so popular, want to copy them, they copy them wrong. I think the artist themselves is making a mistake using so much soft brush and blending. I think that having a healthy amount of blocking and smudging with texture, blocking with texture. So my brush right here has a lot of texture and the capability to be smooth. Really, really black here, if you can tell. Lots and lots of texture. It has the capacity to be really, really hard if you repeat the stroke, but it can do this softness as well. That's what you want to do in every level, whether it's smudging. Even in my soft brushes, I made a soft brush that makes sure I stop making it too smooth. So my soft brush is a soft brush, but at the same time it's got this disgusting texture to it, which is a kind of like a warning for me to stop using so much. So when I do this, I'm getting these textures set in the place of the soft brush, so I don't get this distinct, kind of gross looking, perfectly smooth soft brush tail, and have some texture here to remind me that I'm either blending after or blocking or addressing or making sure that it's not perfectly mathematically Photoshop level smoothness that comes with the soft brush. So the balance starts with your tool. The lower lashes, I don't paint them. What I do with lashes is I create the illusion of the texture. When you have to have the lashes in, if you've ever seen a woman without mascara, you wouldn't notice her lashes until she wears mascara. So remember that this is all makeup. But for lashes, what I usually do is a little something like this. I just like the hair, I throw in like the illusion of the texture. I'm not actually texturing. I'm not actually painting in the lashes. I treat them as a texture. Okay, so that's what I would do for the lower lashes. What is the right time to go into color? I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell until I looked at your gallery, but if you're a beginner, if you're only first in your year, if you haven't done enough geometry studies, a while. You have no business trying color until you perfect your form. If you have an assignment or a commission or something that you have to complete in color, I've done so many videos with colored critiques, and they all discuss how the whole atmosphere should start with one color. Is it cold or is it a warm environment? Is it cool or warm? And choosing colors analogous to that. I know the eye is spherical, but does it also have a triangular shape? When I drew the trend lines, yeah, definitely it had a very triangular shape, but I'm not talking about the eyeball. The eyeball is perfectly spherical. What it does to the skin around it might end up looking in all kinds of ways, just depending on how much fat we have, our DNA, what our eyelids do, or the fat in the eyelids. Remember, there is fat like hooded right here in the eyelids. I know the eye is spherical. If everything has room for improvement, you keep fixing and fixing. Won't that add stress to your process? How do you know when enough is enough? When I get sick of a painting, that's when I know enough is enough, and I move on to something fresh and new after a day break or something. Something that intensive requires that I take a break, look for a day to turn off all of the facets of my brain that help me complete a portrait, and then try again the next day to give them time to rest. Sleep actually helps you retain information. I find that when I'm painting, I get really invested into jumping into details before blocking everything out properly. How do I veer away from this habit? Well, you know it's bad. And as soon as you zoom in, as soon as you start shrinking your brush, you're just going to have to grow an awareness for it. When a smoker's trying to quit smoking, they're going to have many times where they're going to want to just stop doing this. It's just a matter of willpower. You are similarly addicted to the feeling of detailing, how it makes you feel you have an instant read, makes you feel like you're actually painting. But the processes are that, the results are never what you want. The results are always the opposite. So you know that, and you know it's bad for you, and the rest is all your willpower. There's no other technical fundamental for you to describe for you that helps you with this section. That's just all you. That's your willpower. You know it's bad, and that was as much as I could do. The application is all you. That's the eyeball of the head being perfectly spherical. As far as we're concerned as artists, it is. If there is a slight little bump somewhere in there inside the eye socket, if it's a little bit more oval, if it's a little bit more elongated, I wouldn't know because I never needed it. All of my art has been in its current stage, just with the idea that generally the eyeball is a sphere and not a cube. Happy New Year, O'Connell. Okay, so let's see any more. This is actually all I'm doing today. I wanted to look at the caricature, but I feel like it's a little bit outside of what we're doing today. That's a lot of characterization and silhouettes. I think I should ease into these critique hours. But hopefully this has been helpful. So basically I want to start assigning stuff that responds to the critiques that we did. So if you guys want to be more a part of it, along with your notes, which again prioritizes you to win the brushes over anyone else that is also doing notes, is try it. Try doing a photo reference study of an eye, copying exactly what we did today, following my process, drawing the trend lines, showing off which brushes you're using with a little kind of like a silhouette so you get full black. And you kind of show me what brush you're using by clicking with your mouse to show the brush that you're using. And show your trend lines, show your work, draw what you think a symbol is, draw what you see when you first say I. Prepare yourself to be aware that you might start doing this to the face, and that's it. That's going to pretty much win you your brushes if you guys work like this. So it's a bit more of a way to encourage more content in your note taking. Thank you everyone for joining today. Any more questions at all? Let me get my website ready. So for those who want to join our community, I got this painting, this study right out of the community channel, and that is over here. So you go to my website, istebrak.com, click on the Google Plus icon right over here. Make sure you cast your vote. So let me read through it. Each weapon will be designed with its own champion, which will be chosen from specific cultural religions from ancient history. This is a general challenge. It has nothing to do with the response challenge from each critique hour. From the Byzantine Empire to the painted tribes of Africa. So your champion might come from these eras. I might run another poll to help us choose exactly which culture. I might not. If you want the cultures to be your choice, comment below with your thoughts. If you have any thoughts on what you want done with this challenge, feel free to speak your mind. Once we decide on one of the options below, I will upload a detailed brief and all the design requirements. So if you're new to my channel, we've been doing these forever. All you gotta do is just choose the weapon we're gonna be designing. And once we choose, you have to make sure that you are posting your work, which is thumbnails of the character, thumbnails of the kind of stance they'll have with their weapon, how they're holding their weapon, in the challenge submissions category. If I find it anywhere else, I'm deleting it. So make sure you're following these rules. The edge work for the upper hood of the eye still just looks like lines to me, which we should stray away from. What is the difference I am not seeing? This is a line. It's a line formation. It's a crease that is so thin, it's like a long canyon. But we're very zoomed out on the canyon, and so it looks like a line. A line is what I drew here. These are lines. There's no blending. There are blends surrounding these lines that are making them look like a very long canyon that is very thin as well, which is what the crease is. So it is a line. We can use lines if they are representing line-like formations on the face. What if you had a wrinkle? What are you going to do? Not use a line? A very deep old person wrinkle? So that's okay. I've talked about this before, how okay this is. It's not okay to use lines like this. This is not okay. This is not okay. Let me just delete that. This is not okay because it's just hanging around. This one had a role to play. Even if I throw it in there, look at the navigator, it still passes because this is part of the actual form of the object. How about these hairs over here? These ones, they pass because they're line-like formations. But they're still not complete lines. It's not like I'm doing, at least these actually you get away with this. It's not like I'm doing this. Nothing is going on like this in the face. There's no makeup that he's wearing unless there's makeup I don't know about. So it's a matter of whether or not this line actually happens, or the illusion of the line as found in the reference in real life. Thank you, Annie. You're so sweet. I hope so too. I've been feeling very good apart from this stupid cold and this like minus 20 degrees Celsius weather. But I'm sure that'll pass too. I can't wait for the summer. I know everyone says this, oh, I can't wait for winter when it's summer. But I'm enjoying the snow, but I'm not enjoying this bitter cold. You can't even go out for groceries. It's just the cars won't start. You have to turn on your car once a day so that your fluid doesn't freeze. And all of that. Sharp edge. I know I could have said edge, but that's such a general word. I have to describe exactly what it is in this case, which is a very long trench. So thank you, my mods, for moderating. I'm happy we're back, and hopefully this is going to be a fun challenge for us. So to recap, to join our class, please visit my website and click on the Google Plus icon. And if you want to help me reach my goal of 1,000 patrons, go to Patreon and you can join just as a watcher. Anything higher than a watcher comes with a lot of perks, but just as a watcher is a way to kind of give back, however small. And that's it. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you guys on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye.